are live. Got a cat right here. She's handy, so that's always good to have. Kind of want to know where your cat is when you start a live stream. Anyway, let's see, get caught up here. There we are. Gonna say hi to everybody quick here. Cynthia's here. Good to see you as always, Cynthia. Billy Lee. And I'll get back to you, Billy Lee, in just a minute. Fuzz is here. Michael Muncie. Nice to see you. What are you pawing at, you silly cat? Anyway, Michael Muncie, T. Reed. She got herself a rusty potato roaster with a green lid, broomcock iron, a tiny cornstick pan, and a Wagner number 9 lid. Cool. Michael says he'd like to see some of the Wagner National lids in the wild. They're out there, but you very seldom see them. Cat, I don't need you. And no, I still haven't glued the hinges on that door yet. I don't need you pawing all over the stuff I'm going to be eating off of later. Later on, we're going to try and cook a little bit on that little stove. You're just going to be a nuisance, ain't you? You're good for one stream. Now you're back to being your usual self. But anyway, yeah, we're going to try and cook a little bit on that stove. I'm going to scramble an egg, or most of an egg. I've got, this is a Wagner toy pan. You see Wagner on the back from the early 1900s. It's got the reinforced handle on it, nickel plated, kind of gone a little bit. Here's the inside of her. And that fits on there real nice over the two burners. So we'll give that a try, see how it goes. Let's see, I think I got pretty much everybody said hi to. Michael Muncie, T. Reed, Raymond's here. I'll go back to where the comments are now. Pat Z, Corey Clark. What'd the cat do to my forehead? It wasn't the cat. It was an assassination attempt. Went to take a shot and my rifle exploded. But anyway, let's see here. Minnie was like, I can hold this. Don't. Hey, you're going to be a nuisance. You can be banished. You don't like that idea, do you? Settle you right down. William Hurt, JR Finishes, good to see you. Cynthia Wesley, I saw to see. Anyway, there we are. Your clock restoration. Yeah, it's still ticking away. I let it run down, so kind of reset it, but I don't know if I have the time back on. Listen, you. I don't have an easy place to throw you away. There. Vicious little beast. The cat attack you? Oh no, that's there. I had a thing removed, growing a bit of a lipoma on my forehead, so I got rid of that. And yeah, the cure is probably going to be worse than the problem for a while, but hopefully I get the stitches out on Friday. But it's not anything too serious. But anyway, Cynthia, or Billy Lee was here rather. Well, we can tease Cynthia with this too because it's a number 9. That's a number 9 Victor that Billy Lee sent me because it needed a repair. It was cracked next to the handle. And I gave this a couple of coats of seasoning. It could bear with, probably a couple more and then start using it right away. It turned out pretty good though. But there's one thing that just drives me nuts with welding this really thin cast iron is I always get at least one little, you can see it there, get one little spot of porosity in there no matter what I do with it. Doesn't seem to matter if I stop and start. And I'm not going to go back and try to fix it because I've tried that and usually end up just making a hell of a lot more of a mess than you did having that one little hole. But an otherwise nearly invisible repair and it's got to have that one little goddamn spot there. It just drives me nuts. But anyhow, there's the outside of it. That looks like it's rusty right there. It really isn't. It's because that gets ground, and then I sandblast it lightly to give it a little texture, so it's not an obviously sanded and polished spot on the pan, and that'll blend in real quick once you give it a little bit more seasoning and a little bit of use. But it sounds really good. But it sounded good before. I mean, you couldn't really. The crack wasn't terribly noticeable. It didn't really affect the ring, but you can definitely hear that the handle rings a little better than it did before if you kind of pinch it so you get right on the where the side meets the bottom of the pan, and kind of pinch it lightly and then flick the handle. A lot of times that'll you will be able to hear it a little better if it's got a hairline next to the handle. I have a little bit of a dead sound, but ring isn't 100% reliable, but it is a good way of kind of screening things. I mean, I've had pans that ring just fine, and turns out later, once you get them cleaned up and you can really see them, that they've got a crack in them. But you can, if you can hear a crack in there, then you pretty well know that it's definitely cracked. Looks really good. Yeah, I'm generally happy with it. Like I say, it's always got to have that one goddamn little spot in there that keeps it from being as perfect as I'd like it to be. And I'll get this sent out as soon as possible. I know you sent it to me before, Billy Lee, but send me your address again. I've got it probably 6 different places, and I can't find it anywhere. And I'm a little bit too damn lazy to look for it. Any advice for carbon that doesn't want to clean off? Has been in lye for weeks and E-tank for 2 days. I mean, if it's thick buildup on the outside, just scrubbing and soaking usually does it. But if it's like embedded right into the metal, it's probably embedded right into the metal, and you might not ever get it off. If it's more, I don't know, just had a little bit, but sometimes you'll see you can't really see it now because it's evened up pretty good. But a lot of times you'll see it on the cooking surface where you'll get everything else stripped down to bare metal, and there'll still be a carbon stain on the surface. If that's the case, I wouldn't worry about it too much because it'll all blend back in eventually. Let's see here. Yeah, sometimes stains are stains. Also, the tiny amount of nickel plating left did not come off in the E-tank. That's good. Had a few pieces you had to dip multiple times in vinegar. Still took forever. No, it's buildup. Yeah, mostly it's just persistence. Keeping at it. If it's too much of a buildup and it's got to come off, you'll just have to keep working at it. Using a stainless steel scouring pad, those work pretty good for taking stuff off. I have had really a lot of good with that. Cynthia recommends spraying it with Easy Off and leaving it in the sun. That would probably help too. But yeah, sometimes you get them little bits of buildup that just don't want to come off, and yeah, you got to keep working at them if you want to get rid of them. That's really all you can do. I might get way over here. There we go. But now that we got this here out of the way, and yeah, I'm gonna torture Cynthia. There's number 9 that you don't have yet. And I'll get this back to Billy Lee as soon as I can. And we'll fire this up and see what we can do about cooking on that little thing. Let's see here. Try and get things rearranged. Big trouble you have. Some we got too hot too fast and there's rust in the carbon. Yeah, that would probably help bind it on there pretty good too. Let me see here. I need just a little bit more light on this. Adjust my light some. Oh yeah, that brightened things up a good bit. Anyway, I showed you this little toy stove I got and got cleaned up here recently. This organized. And I was going to try and do a little bit of cooking on it just for fun because this is an actual gas burning toy stove. And like I said, I'm going to use the Wagner little skillet here. That's probably 3.5 inches across, maybe 4. It's a toy size, and like I said, this is an early 1900s one. I got a couple of these little guys. And they're a nice little skillet. Anyhow, I'll get this lit off. There's not a whole lot of adjustment to this. There we go. You can see it burning there. Probably zoom in a little bit too. Zoom, 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 zoom. And you can see that burning. We'll get the pan on top, get that warmed up whilst I crack an egg. Come here. And yes, I know you're supposed to break them on a flat surface so you don't get bits of shell in there. But I don't care. That's the way I break eggs. If you don't like it, you can break your own damn eggs. We'll whoop this up. Probably could have fried an egg in that, but I didn't want a chance of having more egg than I did pan. Yeah, she's heating up. I didn't want to run the egg over the pan, and I don't really have a decent small spatula either that would work good for flipping an egg. So I think I'd try scrambling an egg first, just to make it go good. And I'll give that a little salt and pepper, and I'll mix that right in. And plenty of pepper. It's getting warm, and I should have. I'm gonna have to get a different fork so I don't get egg in my clarified butter for later. Throw away this too, and get rid of these. Okay, that seems to have been warmed up pretty good. Yeah, you don't need a raw cookie dough. Need some quail eggs. Yeah, when we had chickens, we also had some, they were all mixed banties, but we had some golden Seabright chickens. And they were cool little chickens. They were just a little small chicken, and they laid an egg about the size of the end of your thumb. They're just cool as hell. Neat little birds. Use a little bit more there. We'll see how this scaled down cooking works. I don't have a really small hot pad either, but I'll have to get a. Don't even think of jumping up there while I'm not looking, cat. Need a hot pad. Always got to be something you don't have when you're trying to do live cooking. I think we're warmed up pretty good. Pan's getting hot. Yeah, eating cookie dough. You're not supposed to eat raw cookie dough or raw cake batter or anything with a raw egg in it. But yeah, I always do. And in we go with the egg. Oh, you betcha. That's plenty hot. Get this out of here. That's working really good. Let me see if I can. Damn wires are tangled up here. Too much light from the bathroom. Let's see here. There we go. More of an omelet, actually. Is that why some people drink raw eggs? I mean, you can. There are a lot of protein in them. And how hot is the oven? The oven doesn't really, I suppose it does a little bit underneath. I'll show you this once we're done. I'll give you a little better look at that again. I like my scrambled eggs browned a bit. Some people like them just barely cooked, but I prefer them cooked a little bit browned. I got it back up here. Fish eggs would fry nice in that little pan. We're getting the sucker are running, the carp and the red horse and all that. And I've been threatening to try and go sucker fishing one of these years and get one that's full of eggs and make some fried fish eggs, because they're actually pretty damn good. You take the fish eggs, mix them up with a little flour, salt and pepper, and you make a patty out of it and fry them up, and they're really good. I mean, you wouldn't think so, but they really are. Oops. I think one more flip will have her. That looks pretty good. Have you ever heard anyone actually getting sick from eating raw cookie dough? No, I haven't. I don't think I've ever actually heard of it, but it's possible. There's always the one guy. Cook up a salmon patty in that. You could, yeah. Like I said, I could have done a fried egg in this. It's big enough. I'm gonna slide this off to the side. Actually, I'll set it up. This will be a lot easier with little tiny child hands too, I suppose. But there we go. You can see the flame. Shut that off. A little tiny bit stuck, but not much. And let that cool down. And there, a nice little scrambled egg. Yeah, I'll let this cool off a bit, and then I'll show you the underside a little better. I got a cat here that wants what she ain't gonna get. There we go. And There we go. Nice little scrambled egg or omelet, if you call it. Yeah, that's quite the little cook stove. I mean, I'm tickled with that. That worked out really good. Oh, you are gonna make it just a mess here, ain't you? Got the cat climbing on my desk, trying to get at my coffee, trying to get at every other thing that she could possibly knock off. I got my mouse a little. Anyway, yeah, one egg. Like I said, I could have fried it, but I don't have a really good spatula to get under there and properly flip a fried egg. But a scrambled egg, you can't go wrong. I kind of wanted to use the griddle on that too that came with it because it's just the right size for that. But I didn't feel like trying to figure out an 8-drop batch for pancake batter. Pretty bad looking knot on your head. Oh, it didn't hurt at all because Novocaine. But yeah, I get the stitches out Friday. Yeah, go ahead and play on that hot stove, cat. Hey, Eileen Ebony, good to see you. They say the burnt nose teaches best, so you just stick your snout right in there, cat. You could fry a smelt in the wee pan. You could. There's a lot of little things you could fry one or two of in that. And it's a little bigger than most of your toy pans, but that's an actual usable size. And you could easily fry one egg in that. But I didn't want to take the chance of not having an egg that was a little too big for it. And it's still warm, but cool enough I can sit her there. And yeah, it's a pretty cool little pan. I'm happy with it. And not every day you can actually cook on a toy stove like that. Let me get caught up here. Those little stoves with the microwaves that fast for heating up 1 cup of coffee. You could. I bet you. Yeah, that'd work pretty good. Used to get a unicorn horn on your head from drinking coffee or eating chocolate or tree nuts. The sensitivity lasted. Yeah, I had a little lipoma fatty tumor thing that was growing and decided I didn't want to have it anymore. Yeah, you could do an egg McMuffin on that too. That'd work nice for browning up a English muffin and making the egg for it. Keeps everything contained just to the right size. Be a little tough to cook a significant amount of bacon in it, but a slice of Canadian bacon would work pretty good in that. You could fry that up pretty decent for your egg McMuffin. Get that before it's cold. And let me see here. I'll let her cool down a little bit more and show it to you again. And yeah, I was going to try the super glue on the hinges. The hinges are well attached. They're riveted on, and there's a pin that's cast in. They're cast iron. And there's a pin on the back that goes through a hole in the front of the stove, and then there's a rivet that holds it. But they're loose. You can flop them around, and that's what happens. I mean, the door latch works really good. There's plenty of latch there to grab, but the hinges kind of swing out of the way and it falls down. And I tried to peen the rivets down, hammer them a little flatter, but they're hard as hell. I mean, they would not. I mean, even smacking them pretty hard, they wouldn't crown over anymore. So yeah, I didn't want to take it too far and end up breaking one of the hinges because that would have been a real problem. But somebody suggested super glue. Take some super glue and see if I get them stuck down to the face face of the stove just so they don't move around like that. And I was going to do it, but I didn't get to it yet. Although I did find my super glue, which is an important first step. Any warmth in the oven? Not really. I mean, I can feel a little bit. You get up towards where the burner is, you can feel, the hot iron on the top of it. Maybe a rivet gun. Well, the old rivets are still in there, so I'm not going to drill them out and, try and replace them. If the rivets were gone, I could just put a brass rivet in there and that would flatten out real nice. But yeah, they're just little chunks of probably steel wire that they stuck in there and hammered flat. And yeah, the damn stuff is hard to sell. It just doesn't want to peen over like it should. You can get the thicker super glue. That's what I have, the super glue gel. Do you have a little toy ash bucket yet? Yeah, I do. I've got a couple little toy stove. They're just toys. They don't actually work. And I've got a bunch of little stuff for it, different frying pans, different accessories that come with it. And I think I know I got at least one, maybe two of the little coal scuttle ash bucket type things. One of these days I'll get those all cleaned up and put together properly. But no, the oven doesn't heat. That's a little warmish inside there if I had the door for that oven. And there should be a back for it right here. You saw on the thumbnail for this video a picture of another one of these. It has the door and it has the back, but it doesn't have the side shelf like that. Let's see here. It's still fairly warm, not terribly hot, but a little warm to be handled for much more. What's the square top piece? This thing here, that's kind of a little warming oven. There should be a door. I mean, you can see inside the back of it. There should be a door on that. Like I said, if you go back and you see the thumbnail for this, I found a picture of one of these that was for sale. But you have to join the site to see what price it actually sold for, and I ain't gonna do that. I have one of those toy samples with all the pans in a coal bucket, $15. Yeah, some of them are fairly new, some of them are older, and the prices are kind of all over the place on them. Yeah, I've seen them anywhere from $10 to $40, depending on how nice they are and what all comes with them. Sigurd, your message got garbled. Let me see here. May not have even seen it. I don't. Where are you here? Dang, autocorrect. Yeah, they can be a pain. For anyone who hasn't tried it, Mud's Honey Cayenne roast pork is worth making. Third time. Pork shoulders for me. Yeah, I really like that. I mean, that turned out pretty good. The honey cayenne glaze, I made that a few times myself, and I really like it. It's great on pork. It'd probably be pretty good on some other things, but usually sweet goes best with pork. Probably go good on chicken too. Let's see here. Where are we? Yeah, she's still warm, but it's getting cool enough to handle, and then I'll be able to handle it. Thin copper wire alongside the rivet hinges. Maybe, but there's not a huge amount of play in the rivets. I mean, there's a little bit. A lot of it's around the pins that stick through it. There's the clock going. Did you get the number 4 taps for your clock? It's not number 4s that I need. I mean, you can get, number 4, 40 thread taps. What it is a number 3, which you can get too, but it's a different thread than the standard number 3 machine screws you can get. The number 3s are usually, I think, 58 threads per inch. And the one I need for that clock is a lot coarser than that. It's probably like a 38 or a 40 thread per inch, but it's the same size as a number 3. I did get a box of assorted, watch and clock making kind of junk. And there's some little taps in there, which I haven't really gone all the way through yet to see exactly what they are. But a lot of those have really strange designations. I got to kind of figure out what they are. They don't seem to be metric. I'm sure it's it's for watchmaking, clock making, real small thread. But there's like a number 14. Well, not number 14. What the hell size was that? Or like a number 60, 128, something like that. That's all it was, if I remember right. But they were odd, really odd size. And one of those might be right, but I'd have to go through them and see if I can figure out exactly what they are. I came in late, went back and didn't see what it was. Oh, I had a thing removed. Soothing here in the clock as it rains. Yeah, it's ran a bit slow. I let it run down, let the springs run down on it, and wound it back up. But it needs a little bit more adjusting yet. I can get it dialed in closer. I mean, I lost about an hour over the whole week. Not quite, but yeah, it's not too bad for just course adjusting and kind of guessing at it. And like I say, I got to find where I'm going to put it permanently so I can get it leveled up and get the beat nice and steady on it. And then worry more about getting it actually dialed in for the time. But it's close enough that it isn't going to run too far off too fast. Let's see here. Yeah, it's cool enough to handle. Let me grab this. Unhook my propane tank. Yep, just unhook it. Come on, you. There we go. Get that hose out of the way. There. Get sat down with it. Move my coffee before I tip that over. Anyway, we'll get a little more up close with this. There you can see the burner right in there. That's just 2 pieces of cast iron. And that oval part on top just has some little scallops in the edges. And the screw here goes through both pieces, holds them together, and there's just enough little gaps around the edge that lets the gas out and lets it burn. That's a little side shelf that hangs on the side. Let me see, can I get that hose off without wiggling it too much? Yeah. Get him out of the way. Yeah. It says Superior, but it's forget who that was. Keeler? Kenton brand is what it says on the bottom. In the bottom, you see there's holes through it, and you can see all the way through. There's just holes in there. There's no shelf on the inside of the oven. It does heat up a little warm, but you wouldn't be able to bake anything in it. It doesn't get that warm. And then there's, like I said, there's a little warming oven type of thing on the side. And there's no door for that, though. and there would be a little cast iron back to it. See the screw holes for that. But yeah, if I ever find another one for parts that I get the door and the back off of, that'd be cool. I have seen these where it has the back, but it doesn't have the warming oven and it doesn't have the little side shelf. It's just this area here. And I've also seen them that were just kind of a one burner type of deal, and only about half the size. It doesn't have the oven, but it does have the one little burner. But yeah, it was in pretty good shape. Uh, it's nickel plated, not real heavy nickel plating, but it's fairly good. So I just took an SOS pad, cleaned all that up. There's a few rusty spots, a little surface rust on the metal part. So I steel wooled that with the SOS and just gave it a real light coat of oil, and that shined it up nice, and that'll keep it from rusting. And that's that. Yeah, I paid $40 for that, and real tickled to have got it. You can tell it's old because there's no slotted screw heads. You mean Phillips, don't you? Because usually the old ones were regular slotted screws. But yeah, the Phillips, anything with Phillips screws in it's either been replaced or it's a more modern one. But yeah, $40 for that, I think it was definitely worth it. Put the little side shelf back on there. There you go. You have a 360 fist tap and other smaller ones if you need one. I'll keep you in mind as I get, just got to be a pain, as I go through my clock making. Like I said, I'll see what I have in that bunch of stuff that I got. I paid like $30, and it had a bunch of a couple of other little tools that I really needed, which are expensive little shits. They're chamfering tools for a clockmaker set, and there's a whole bunch of different sizes. And I got like 15 of them, and usually those things sell for like $15 a piece, brand new. So that's kind of what I was actually after in the whole box of junk. There's a little tiny tin in there that has a bunch of really ornate pocket watch hands in it. And I've seen those hands sell for $20-$30 a pair on eBay. And I got quite a few of them in there, so I'll probably end up coming out money ahead on the thing. Like a kid with a new toy. Well, it is a new toy. And any woman will tell you that 16 is about as far as a man ever grows up as far as real maturity. We'll get older, but we don't get any more mature than that. There's a cast iron museum in Kenton, Ohio. Yeah, that's where that was from. It's like I said, it says Kenton brands on it, and there's a patent date of 1915 on there. So this was made sometime after 1915, up into the 20s. I've also seen them both the Superior brand and some other ones that are pretty similar, but they have an electric heating element in them. And those would be kind of cool. Yeah, Kenton, Ohio is about 30 minutes from you, known for their cast iron banks and toys. Yeah, it's probably the same factory that made a lot of toys and banks and things like that. That's the sort of thing, cast iron toy factory would make. Every room in your house is in its own time zone. The digital clock's game time. Yeah. Yeah, you get, if you got one clock, you know what time it is. If you got two, you can never be quite sure. So, yeah, you can't have too much of a good thing. Back up here. May have to check out the museum. It's not too far. Yeah, I would go and have a look at something like that. I mean, a lot of people have been collecting, cast iron banks. The mechanical banks, especially, and things like that for a long time. I don't know a whole lot about them. I know there's the old original ones from the early 1900s, and then there's some that were they weren't really reproductions; they were more of a reissue, and they made a lot of those in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. You can usually tell a little bit by the quality and some of the, like the screws. Something old like this originally would have had slotted screws, and then they went to Phillips later on, and then in the 70s and 80s, you started seeing actual reproductions made in Taiwan, made in China, that were reproductions of the original ones, and most of those are pretty rough, and you can usually tell. But I mean, it's a whole big thing collecting some of the mechanical banks. Some are worth a lot of money. There's a lot of rare ones, a lot of unusual ones. Used to have coon races, put a coon in a box and turn the hounds loose. Box on a raft. Have an Uncle Sam cast iron bank. Yeah, I've got I don't have it handy here. I got an elephant. You push his trunk down, and it's spring loaded. Push his trunk down and lock it, and put a coin on the trunk, and you push his tail, and it'll slap the coin into the saddle on the back and throw the coin inside. But that's a modern one, but it's a cool little bank. But yeah, there's some really complex mechanical banks where we'll throw a coin. There's a baseball one where you have a pitcher, a catcher, and a batter. You set everything. You put a coin in the pitcher's hand, and he'll throw it to the catcher, and the batter will swing at it. And it's pretty much always a strike. It's apparently pretty rare that the coin will fly right that the batter can hit it. But yeah, the cast iron banks and cast iron toys like horse-drawn wagons and things like that. There's tons of that stuff, and a lot of people are into collecting those. Like I say, some of it's pretty neat, but I don't know enough about them that you could actually get enough. I don't know enough about them that I could really tell. 1940s from an 1890s. But you can pretty much tell the imported reproductions. They're usually a lot rougher, not painted nearly as good. Fur prices down. Nobody hunts coon anymore. Yeah, there's the population took off once people quit hunting coon as much. There's a few guys that still do it, pretty much just for fun, but you can't make any money at it. It's just like trapping. You can make a little bit of money at it, but you ain't gonna make a living by any stretch of the imagination. But coon and coyotes, the populations really took off when the fur prices dropped. Many related. Read an article about a sixth grade kid using scientific method to answer the age old question: does a cat's butt touch everything when it sits? Good news, no. Well, that's nice to know. The bank sounds really cool. Trunk up elephant is a symbol of wealth. Yeah, I had it close by here for quite a while, but I finally put the damn thing away. And I showed it in a stream quite a while ago. But I've seen them around. They're like I said, it's nothing. It's not a very old one. I mean, there might be, an old original antique, ancient one, but the one I got and the one I've seen are all pretty. They're all pretty much new ones. Carolyn Rivera, hi, good to see you. 35 years ago, pelts were worth trapping, not so much now. Yeah, and even then, they're starting to, the prices are starting to drop off. Oops, Cynthia. I enjoyed all you guys, but you're out. More out than in. You'll chat with me later. Well, okay. Hope you enjoyed the show and hope you had fun. And we'll see you next time around, Cynthia. Some people still pan for gold in Metro Atlanta and make enough to get by. Yeah, a lot of people don't. I mean, you hear the gold rush, you think of California and out west, but the first big gold rush in the U.S. was in Georgia. There's actually a fair bit of gold in Georgia, and the government opened mints in Dahlonega, Georgia, uh, Charlotte, South Carolina. I think there's one other one, well, New Orleans. But the Charlotte and Dahlonega mints, all they ever made were gold coins because it was cheaper for the mint to open a little small branch mint in the area where the miners could bring their gold right to the mint and have it made into coins than it was to risk shipping it all the way back to Philadelphia, where the main mint was at the time. And yeah, I mean, people don't really realize that. And the gold they find in Georgia and North Carolina is one of the few places where it's really pure. Gold nuggets that you find in Georgia are usually like 22 and a half, 23 carat, where pretty much everywhere else in the world where you're going to find gold nuggets, panning for gold, they're usually anywhere from 16 to 20 carat. And the rest of it's usually copper and silver because gold, copper, and silver tend to run together. In fact, a lot of the silver that goes onto the market now comes out as an impurity from copper mining, and same with a lot of the gold too. So still one semi-productive creek in North Metro Atlanta, Sixes Creek. Yeah, I've often wondered, some of the creeks around here, we're not known for being a gold producing area, but there was a copper mine that was in operation for a few years north of here. As a real deep. It was a sulfite ore type of mine, and they mined it for copper. And at the time, for all the copper they produced, they made a very small profit on the copper. But the gold and silver that were present as impurities in the copper ore, they made a pretty good profit on it. And the mine only ran for like 8-9 years, I think it was. That's pretty much what they figured it was, just by the size of the ore body. But this is all glacial runoff in this area. So on my little piece of ground, if I dug around and sifted hard enough, you could probably find one of every kind of rock between here and the North Pole. And I'm sure there's probably a few bits and pieces of gold floating around, but I don't know if there's enough to be actually worth. I mean, you'd luck out and find one nugget, but that might be the only one within 2.5 miles of it. So Lodge reissued the elk skillet. Ah, cool. It's a part of the wildlife series at the Bass Pro Shops online store. That might be worth getting one of those. I was told that Yellow Britches Creek in York and Cumberland counties in central PA cut through some gold-rich areas, but no mining that I'm aware of. Yeah, I've also seen videos of people panning for gold on the shores of the Great Lakes, digging through the sand and panning through that, and they do find some gold. So there's lots of areas that have gold, but it's hard to have enough of it in one spot to be worth trying to trying to dig for it. It's like aluminum. Aluminum is really common in the soil and in the rocks and all that, but an actual rich enough ore that you can commercially extract it is fairly scarce. Where there's dark sand, you can find gold. Okay, that makes sense, I suppose. The other other metals would tend to oxidize, and the sand from metal bearing rock isn't going to be like real light sandstone type of sand. But yeah, I'm not a geologist, so I don't know a whole hell of a lot about it. I do know there's a town in Australia where the streets were literally paved with gold. They used gravel from a gravel pit outside of town to build the streets in town. And some prospector got to looking around and poking around out there, and you wouldn't recognize it for being gold ore to look at it, but the gravel pit they were digging in was a large gold ore deposit. So they had paved the streets and used it for concrete making and gravel, just out of a gravel pit. And it turns out that they were sitting on a gold mine the whole time. The Pine Barrens in New Jersey, a lot of pig iron. Yeah, there's quite a bit of call it bog iron around here. It's more like it's not a hard rock, but it's like an iron-rich sandstone. It's probably the easiest way to describe it. Doesn't surprise you, Lodge reissued an elk skillet. Loves to devalue collector prices to make a few bucks. Yeah, you could look at it that way too, I suppose. Perfect description. Yeah, like I said, I've seen it, and yeah, like I said, it's kind of looks like a rusty sandstone. It's kind of hard to say though how much I mean, it would devalue it to some degree, because a lot of people are paying prime prices for something scarce if they reissue it. But after a few years, you usually see you'll see a big difference in the value between the original issue and the reissues too. So kind of settles it down a bit. But yeah, it will if you're just looking for an elk, and all of a sudden you got a new one. Yeah, it'll devalue it some, but especially if there's an obvious difference in the skillet itself, where it's easy to spot a original from a reissue. The originals are still going to go for more. Your great uncle was head of geology at University of Minnesota Duluth. Expert in iron ore deposits. I'm lucky enough to have been newly graduated geologist working for the government in the Philippines in 1941. Yeah, it's probably not a good place to be an American citizen at that time. Came in late. What happened to Mud's head? What, something happened to my head? Minor surgery, Dan. Had some bits and pieces taken off that I didn't feel like having stuck on there anymore. Yeah, the cat attacked me. She did get me in the eye, below the eye once a little bit, but so far she hasn't attack my face too much. Lobotomy, that too. I don't have a bottle in front of me, so I might as well have a frontal lobotomy. Managed to survive the war as a civilian POW, barely. Yeah, it was pretty rough surviving in the Philippines as a POW. Brain surgery by Minnie, that's the next video series. Yeah, that'd be a good one for her. Have a scar on your forehead from resting on a pan in the middle of a reseason. I've done dumb shit like that too. You know, bang your head on the edge of a table and you reach down to pick something up and smack yourself. I'm the new Harry Potter. Yeah, it runs horizontal. When he was doing it, you know, I could feel him cutting and ripping and stitching on it. I thought it was actually going to run vertical, but you know, that's the way it turned out, I guess. Might have been trying to hide the scar a little bit so it runs, you know, with the natural lines in your forehead. Did that this week. Bent over a candle with your hair in a messy bun, smelled the hair burn. Yeah, sometimes it's easy to forget exactly where you are. You know, get your attention focused on something else. You know, bending over to pick up the thing you dropped and banging your head or trying to set your hair on fire. But anyway, trying to think of what we're going to do next week. As a kid, you drove around Lake Michigan on summer vacation, visited your uncle, and he was able to identify all the rocks you collected. Yeah, there's you know, around Superior, there's quite a few different kinds of rocks. I mean, it's famous for the for agates because there's big agate formations on the North Shore that break loose and wash away. I mean, I found, you know, spent years and years digging in the ground. Yeah, I found a lot of cool rocks over the years, a lot of agates. I got a nice chunk of native copper ore. You know, it's a kind of a reddish rock. It's got green streaks and there's little knobs of actual copper sticking out of it. Your uncle had a lipomer removed too. Yeah, that's what it was. Do I have any Loth cast iron? No, I don't. I've bid on a few. They usually go fairly high for the skillets. I mean, I pretty typically see them going around 150, give or take. You know, for a number 8. Don't know what a Loth waffle iron would go for, especially with a base. Yeah, I got no idea what something like that would sell for. You used to use carbide lamps coon hunting when you talk to somebody, you lowered your head, came too close, your hair burst into flames. Yeah, that would be well, light you up really good. You'd be able to see. Never heard of Loth. Where are they from? North Carolina, I think. North Carolina or Virginia. South Carolina, maybe. They're on the East Coast anyway, either the Carolinas or Virginia. Waynesboro, Virginia. Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember. I knew it was from that corner, but couldn't remember exactly where. Cool seeing the rocks that glow in black light. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, like I said, I haven't decided what I'm going to do next week, but I'm sure we'll do something. I'll get Billy Lee her pan sent back out. Make her happy. I finally got that done. Usually it doesn't take me quite that long to get around to doing, but I had some other things going on. Yeah, I mean the stove's kind of fun. I'll get them glued on, you know, just so they don't turn here pretty soon. And the clock's going to ring. 7:30. There we go. So I'll wrap this up. We'll be back next week. We'll do something entertaining then too. And hope you enjoyed the show. And good night, everybody.